This evening, a PPPC injunction has prevented the newly sworn-in mayor of the new town of Mabaruma from proceeding with his mayoral duties. The two daughters and their male accomplices were today arraigned in the Sparndam Magistrates Court for the murder of their father. Finance Minister Winston Jordan spoke on salary increases for teachers, but his take on the issue has angered the GTU. Still in search of Babita Sarju, the mother found a bit of consolation after the killer of her son was jailed. Internationally, new footage has been released by the police in Belgium on one of the suspects in the recent bombing.
From SAFETV headquarters in South Rambert Gardens, this is SAFETV Headline News with Basil Bradshaw.
SAFETV 2 Headline News is being streamed live on our YouTube channel. Join us. Henry Smith was sworn in as mayor of Mabaruma by President David Granger yesterday, but he will be unable to function in that capacity as Justice Diana Insinali has granted an interim order quashing the controversial appointment which had been made by Minister of Communities Ronald Balkan on Tuesday. Andrew Weeks reports that Attorney General Basil Williams said the government will fight the case in court.
This afternoon, Government Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams said the decision by the Minister of Communities to appoint the mayor and deputy mayor, as well as chairman and vice chairman, was done because there was a tie. Williams said he will defend the decision of the Minister of Communities because it was according to the law.
Why is it they send their councillors in to participate in the second meeting to elect the mayor after the first meeting was tight? So they participated in the second meeting and it resulted in the second time. And so after the minister acted, they're now running out crying, you know. So we are very confident that the proper statutory procedure was adopted and that the mayor and deputy mayor of the Mabaruma Town Council and the chairman and deputy chairman of the 5 NDCs in question were all properly and lawfully elected.
In court documents filed by the attorney at law, Anil Nanlal, on behalf of the PPC Executive Secretary Zulfikar Mustafa, Justice Insinali ordered that Balkan's decision to select Smith as mayor be squashed on the grounds that the decision is contrary to and in violation of Municipal and District Councils Act Chapter 2801, is in excess of and without jurisdiction, made in bad faith, is unreasonable, arbitrary, capricious, based upon irrelevant and improper consideration. Justice Insinali also granted orders quashing the appointment of chairman and vice chairman. Minister Balkan gave comments on the matter at hand with more clarity.
So, for example, in the case of Woodlands Farm, when the meeting terminated on the 31st of March, all of the councillors would have been given a notice in writing by the overseer, Sean Del Bristol, inviting them to attend a second meeting for elections of chairman and deputy chairman for the Woodlands Farm NDC on Monday, April 4th at 8 a.m. And the agenda was listed and it established that that was the sole purpose of the meeting. So as the AG has said, by attending and participating in that meeting under those terms and conditions, the PPP and their councillors accepted the legitimacy and the validity of the process and the procedure which was adopted. So we find it strange that subsequent to that, that the PPP can file a court action purporting to say that the election of a mayor should be done by a popular vote, when a complete reading of all of the sections in the Act does not contemplate that.
It all boils down to the interpretation of the law, and according to the Attorney General, the PPC has misinterpreted the law.
Because Section 13(6) could not, it is a section that could only be interpreted to mean that the second election should be by councillors. That's why the PPP councillors turned up. It's only because the law, that because the PPP would have interpreted Section 13(6) in that same way, that the second meeting could only... No. But everything is a question of construction. You have to construe the legislation. And if the legislation leads to an absurdity, which is exactly what, if you were to read that literally, and if you look at the spirit and intent of the legislation, so why would you not, in the first instance, name your mayoral candidate, and then there's a direct election for the mayor, as in the case of president? If that was so, why would you only have one subparagraph and all the other scores of paragraphs just dealing with the elections by the councillor of mayors and chairmen? So that is a provision that is incongruous. It cuts across the grain of the other provisions, and as we say, the whole scheme of the legislation is to resolve these elections within a period of about
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Basil, the government and the PPP will go to the High Court in 3 weeks in front of the acting Chief Justice, Janet Cummins Edwards, for arguments.
Well, it is left to the noble Chief Justice acting to rule and rule sensibly in the matter. Thank you, Andrew. The two daughters of that dead non-parole pensioner were today arraigned along with two male accomplices for his murder after they appeared at the Sparndam Magistrates Court. Rihanna Ahmad has the details for you in this report.
Roger Manicom's 18-year-old daughter, Nalini Manicom, and her 12-year-old sister, her 24-year-old boyfriend, Viram Lal, and his friend, 23-year-old Devon Brown, were all dragged before the Sparndam Magistrates Court before Magistrate Zamina Ali.
You get him?
According to the facts presented by the prosecution, the now dead man's daughters confessed to killing him, saying that the mastermind behind the brutal act was Nalini's boyfriend, Lal. On Saturday evening last, the two girls reportedly lured their father into the kitchen of their non-parole East Coast Demerara home, where the older girl, Nalini, slaughtered him with an axe. The prosecution went on to point out that it was Lal who assisted the girls in wrapping the body of their father in construction plastic, and that it was the friend, Brown, who helped to transport the body from Manicom's residence to the railway embankment at College, where it was dumped.
Why is it going to Spain?
There are claims that the girls were being sexually abused by their father prior to his death. However, Roger Manicom's relatives who were outside of the courthouse would not hear of it. According to them, the two girls murdered their father because they wanted some $40 million he made from the sale of a lumberyard he previously owned. There are also other allegations that the mother of the two girls was also involved. Ever since the man's body was found, Manicom's daughters have been pointing investigators in the direction of a robbery that perhaps ended badly and a drinking session that the man's girlfriend had to have known about. But Basil will know more as the accused are set to return to court on May 6th.
After 13 years of persistence, the mother of the still missing Babita Sarju has been given some motivation to continue fighting for her daughter. This motivation came as a result of her son's killer being placed behind bars. Rihanna Ahmad will explain.
A few years before Babita Sarju went missing, her brother Kumar Sarju, called Buddy, was killed. He was the umpire for a cricket match being played at Timeri. Down to the final over, Sarju called a no ball. This angered members of the losing team. One man was so angry that he pounced on Sarju, battering him with his bat.
I'm satisfied today. I got justice. And it seems as well I want justice for Babita.
That was Champa Sunarayan, reacting to the news of her son's killer, Ganesh Narayan, being sentenced to 9-year imprisonment after pleading guilty to manslaughter. Reflecting on today's court hearing, the woman said that her heart almost melted for her son's assailant, who leaves behind a wife and young son as he proceeds to pay for his actions.
Ended up, he was crying.
Did you feel sorry for him?
I can't explain that, even sorry for him, I can't do better than this because I need justice. And when you want justice for the things for his action, You need to be strong-minded and say, well, I had the faith, I had the time, I've controlled my mind not to go out there and do anything wrong.
Many months after a wanted bulletin was issued for her son's killer, Sunarayan recalled how difficult it was for her to watch the man go about his business in the very vicinity of the Timeri police station.
The boy is living near to the station, this is the station, and he's working opposite the station.
Eventually, Sunarayan was convinced that her son would never get justice unless she herself take up the role of the police, as the investigation continued slower than a turtle's pace.
I'm very much strong and I'm holding up. It takes me 13 years to get justice for my son. And whatever it takes to get justice for Babita, I am here waiting all the time. Time is longer than twine, and there is an end for every single thing.
And so, justice did not come easy. But Sunarayan is pleading with many Guyanese mothers who have still not had justice for their children not to give up.
We as a woman also must stand up and say no to violence. Because you having a child, I wouldn't like something to happen to your child like what happened to Babita, nor my son.
As she exhaled a sigh of relief, Sunarayan said that her years of cries were eventually heard and that it was the Director of Public Prosecutions who pushed for the case to be called up when it did. She said too that it was recently sworn in Judge Priya Sunarayan Bihari who initially kept police on their toes as the preliminary inquiry was being heard. Basil?
Surely a sad tale to be told. Thank you, Rihanna. Minister of Finance Winston Jordan's words about salary increases to public servants, especially teachers, that they should not expect high increases, did not go down well with the Guyana Teachers Union. Andrew Weeks sat down with General Secretary of the GTU, who is saying that the government is reneging on its promises.
Because we heard coming from this administration how much they value teachers. Let me talk about teachers, how much they value teachers and how much education is to them and where they want to put education. Just before the budget, I remember when we had the first immature budget, we heard well, we don't want persons to make too much noise because this one is not the real thing. The real budget will come next year. And I'm still wondering if the real budget is here.
General Secretary of the GTU, Coretta MacDonald, who was recently re-elected as the voice of the GTU. MacDonald said the GTU will be working viciously to acquire their proposed 40% increase in salaries for teachers. But if they don't achieve the 40%, they will accept nothing lower than 30 or 35%.
I don't want to say exactly where we are going to go because obviously if you say where you want to go, then the government will just give you that. But I know that we have the kind of resources that we can use to pay our workers. I know that we have that. Because when we look at all that has been happening in this country, in and around this country, in that very short period, lots of finances would have been expended to do what we're doing. And so your human resource is much more valuable than your roads and all the other things that we've been doing. So I'm sure the government will find a way to pay the workers.
The GTU has already threatened massive strike actions against many unresolved issues with the Granger administration, which was proposed by its members at its General Council meeting recently held a week ago. Those include the Teaching Service Commission matter, duty-free allowances, housing for teachers, promotion, debunching, etc. MacDonald made the following appeal to the teachers across the country.
Let's bond together because this union will be strong as its weakest link. And if we hold each other, support each other, together our voices can make a difference. As a very vibrant union, we are not going to back down in any way.
Strong words coming from the GTU, but Basil, should the GTU go ahead with its strike actions, there can be a serious shake-up in the teaching system in this country. England is already signaling a massive recruitment drive for teachers from across the Caribbean. What can the government do to deter a possible exodus? Simply meet the teachers' needs. Basil, back to you.
Well, the government certainly has the opportunity to do so now. But is there something else that we all are not seeing? Thanks, Andrew. Coming up in headline news after the break, has race voting in Ghana been detrimental to the country's development? And new postage stamps were launched today to coincide with the Independence Jubilee celebrations.
Seems like people will try just about anything to lose weight these days. But nothing works better than proper dieting and exercise. So if you're guilty of eating the wrong foods, not finding time to exercise, or can't afford a gym, join SAFETV Channel 2 for Body and Spirit Aerobics Workout with Dick Munez.
Hello, I'm Dick Munez. Welcome to Body and Spirit Aerobics.
Weekday mornings from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Don't hesitate. Act now, because your greatest wealth is your health.
John Lewis Styles, simply different.
Sometimes there's just too much information to keep up with when you're pregnant. What you should and should not eat, what kind of exercise is right for you, how to handle mood changes, even how to determine when it's time for delivery.
Don't let your pregnancy be a burden. Watch The Baby Story on SAFETV Channel 2 every weekday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now you can know all you need to know from conception to delivery when you watch The Baby Story on SAFETV Channel 2.
Do you have a business idea and don't know where to start?
Do you have a small business that has been stagnated and not growing? iPad can provide finance for as much as $20 million for you to acquire equipment, tools, machinery, and stocks to start or expand your business.
iPad can also provide mentoring and training for you to improve your business skills, marketing, and record keeping.
iPad, improving livelihoods.
Get going, keep growing with iPad.
John Lewis Styles, simply different.
This place is really hot. What's wrong with your AC?
It's not working.
Well, we wouldn't be able to continue this meeting anymore because this place is extremely hot.
Wait, please don't go.
Here's a company you can call to get your AC fixed. Action Cool.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
Would there ever come a time when Guyanese of all political persuasions would vote on issues and their conscience and forget race? Headline News Chief Political Analyst Dr. David Hines believes otherwise, as he pointed out to senior reporter Andrew Weeks.
Dr. David Hines says Guyanese have always voted based on their conscience, which is largely influenced by their ethnic concerns, and he sees nothing wrong with that.
Right? I have come to the conclusion that ethnic voting is not a problem. That I've arrived at that position. So I do not yearn for people when they will not vote based. What that means, you know, it would mean that East Indians will vote PNC, and turn the PNC into an East Indian party, and black people will vote PPP if that's what we're talking about, and they will turn the PPP into a black party. That's all you would have. No, we have to we have to accept, Andrew. We have to accept that ethnic voting is part of our history, part of our sociology.
But the big ticket question is whether ethnic voting leads to negative governance. Dr. Hines explains.
And I think the challenge for us is how do we use that ethnic voting in a positive way? And that is why some of us has argued for a long time that the way you deal with ethnic voting is not try to get rid of it. Because we are not going to get rid of it. And even if we get rid of it, all we will do is exchange. Right? That what we do is that we move towards a national government where after people vote their ethnic conscience, we merge those two consciences and make them into a national government. I think that's where that remains the plausible solution. This thing about trying to get people to vote across race, I think is really beating our heads against the wall.
Many feel that in the last local government elections, race was used to garner votes on both sides. But what has been the downfall in the PPP camp is its governance, which has broken the spirit of the people of Guyana to see their country and community realize dreams, provide jobs, develop communities in a bipartisan manner, making the nation economically viable for all, etc. Dr. Hines feels that both African and East Indians and even Amerindians have tied up their conscience with their ethnic identity.
And you can't argue with that. It happens all over the world. Jewish people have a Jewish state. In America, African Americans generally vote for the Democratic Party. Whenever there is an African candidate anywhere, African Americans vote for that candidate. Nothing is wrong with that. What is wrong is that ethnic voting, if it leads to a kind of ethnic domination government that we had under the PPP. So it is not the voting that is wrong, it's the outcome of the voting. And so therefore, we have to find a way to make the outcome of ethnic voting positive and not negative.
Now that the APNU-AFC coalition is in power, Mr. Granger and his ministers are working to be a government for all the people. But as we have been seeing in the news lately, the wolves who are in sheep clothing are now revealing themselves, and this is one of the sore issues that President Granger must bring an end to. Back to you, Basil.
Also, the president must have the assistance of all ethnically level-headed people to smash the scourge. Thank you, Andrew. More Jubilee apparatus as the Guyana Post Office Corporation, in collaboration with the 50th National Commemoration Commission, today launched some new stamps to mark Guyana's 50 years of independence. Rihanna Ahmad will tell you more about them.
Inspired by the 50th themes of reflection, these 15 commemorative pieces were unveiled at Castellani House today. Beautifully capturing Guyana's most prized images, these stamps are grouped into 3 collections: Heritage, Flowers, and the Jubilee logo.
160 years ago, on April 4, 1856, the most valuable stamp in the history of the world, the British Guiana 1 cent magenta, was printed in Georgetown, Guyana. In June 2014, this stamp was sold for approximately $9.48 million US. This special stamp is currently on display at the American Postal Museum in Washington, D.C.
That was Postmistress General of the Guyana Post Office Corporation, Karen Brown. She told the gathering of government officials, diplomats, and others that her corporation should be remembered as one of the few long-serving entities predating 1966.
This noble entity has been fundamental in Guyana's development through its mission to help organizations and communities grow by keeping them connected through the transfer of mail, money, and information.
Brown said that over the past 50 years, the GPOC has been making significant strides, even amid this age of technology that has been rapidly advancing.
Today, the post office has evolved into fulfilling a more patriotic role, as we often produce stamps that capture and promote Guyana as an independent nation.
Stamps, according to Junior Education Minister Dr. Nicolette Henry, are pictorial representation of a country's DNA. And Guyana's stamps, she explained, are quite valuable on the international market.
Guyanese stamps are rare and produced in small quantities compared to other countries. Therefore, they are sought after commodities that international collectors eagerly await to be issued. And I trust that this collection of stamps is no exception.
Minister Henry went on to give kudos to the designers of the country's 50th independence logo, Compton Bob and Christopher Taylor.
And like a curious mind in an art gallery, I stepped back to take a look at this mosaic that is Guyana. Her edges sketched out many moons ago, and after 50 years of varied brushstrokes, we are now beginning to see the makings of a masterpiece.
It is hoped, Basil, that these stamps might even prompt many social network fanatics, like the Facebookers, to take their hands off the keypads for just a bit and actually go down to the post office, so that persons outside of Guyana can get a look at these truly beautiful pieces. Basil?
Well, I do wish the project and its intention all the very best. Thanks, Rihanna. Still ahead, footage has been released on the third suspect wanted for the bombing in Brussels.
Seems like people will try just about anything to lose weight these days. But nothing works better than proper diet and exercise. So if you're guilty of eating the wrong foods, not finding time to exercise, or can't afford a gym, join SAFETV Channel 2 for Body and Spirit Aerobics Workout with Dick Nunez.
Hello, I'm Dick Nunez. Welcome to Body and Spirit Aerobics.
Weekday mornings from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Don't hesitate. Act now, because your greatest wealth is your health.
John Lewis Styles, simply different.
Sometimes there's just too much information to keep up with when you're pregnant. What you should and should not eat, what kind of exercise is right for you, how to handle mood changes, even how to determine when it's time for delivery.
Don't let your pregnancy be a burden. Watch The Baby Story on SAFETV Channel 2 every weekday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now you can know all you need to know from conception to delivery when you watch The Baby Story on SAFETV Channel 2.
John Lewis Styles, simply different.
This place is really hot. What's wrong with your AC?
It's not working.
Well, we wouldn't be able to continue this meeting anymore because this place is extremely hot.
Wait, please don't go.
Here's a company you can call to get your AC fixed. Action Cool.
Honey, what's dinner? I had a hard day.
I'm sorry you had a hard day, but guess what, babes? I didn't cook today because the stove is not working.
Having trouble at home or at the office? Then call the professionals at Action Cool. Our fully trained technical team have the skills and experience in repairs of all air-conditioned units, refrigerators, gas stoves, washing machines, and a whole lot more. For further information, visit us at 86 Hill and Princess Street, Mandela Avenue, Georgetown, or call us on telephone number 225-7867.
Internationally, Belgian police have released new footage showing the third suspect wanted for the attacks in Brussels airport last month. The footage shows the route the man took after leaving the area. Police have appealed for the members of the public who saw the man to come forward. The attacks by so-called Islamic State on the airport and the metro station killed 32 people. Here is more in this Euronews report.
Belgium's federal prosecutor wants help in finding the man-in-the-hat suspect from the attack on Brussels airport. Officials say he's still on the run. The suspect was filmed by security cameras leaving just after the bombing. He then discarded his jacket as he walked for 2 hours towards central Brussels. The man was last caught on CCTV some 45 minutes after the attack on Maalbeek Metro.
Specifically, it concerns the third person present on the scene during the attacks in Brussels airport, the so-called man with the hat, as well as the vest he was wearing at the time.
Meanwhile, Salah Abdeslam, a key suspect from the Paris attacks in November, is still awaiting extradition to France. He was arrested on March the 18th, but Belgian investigators want more time to question him about a shootout 3 days earlier. He still has to be heard on another dossier. The transfer to France will be done within a few weeks. Abdeslam is understood to be the only surviving member of the group that killed 130 people in the French capital last year.
And that's SAFETV 2 headline news for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to find the SAFETV 2 headline news on Facebook and YouTube. You can also tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 for a rebroadcast and in the evening at 6 o'clock for more news. For now, I'm Basil Bradshaw signing out from your newscast.